I'm taking some tips from my grandmother to use here in 2024 to save as much money as possible as inflation continues to rise and everything feels more and more expensive. I'd like to introduce you to Bernice.
They could be twins.
She was raised post-Great Depression and one of the most capable women I have ever met in my life. And so I'm gonna kick it off with one of her biggest traits is self-reliance. She could do anything with anything. She could take like pennies and make an entire meal with it. She could take a needle and some thread and whip together a blanket, a tie, and a dress for Sunday. She grew a garden and mowed her own lawn well into her 80s. My sister was like, Grandma, let me mow the lawn for you. You're 85. So my sister did like 1 or 2 passes and my grandma's like, you need to move. Let me show you how it's done.
Step aside.
So one of my grandma's biggest hobbies were gardening, canning, cooking, like all along those areas. So home gardening and home canning. Guess what? It's summertime. Now's the perfect time to do it. Even if you have an urban apartment with window, you might be able to do this. I have a smaller like in-city lot. I don't have an acre or anything like that. And my dog tends to eat all of my plants, but there are still ways around this. If I use tomato cages like around my tomatoes, my dog doesn't eat the tomatoes. So it's like a win-win-win. So there are ways around. Now, one of the best uses for gardening, in my opinion, is actually not really to eat the things as you grow them, like you pick them and eat them that night. I've never been able to get that to work very well. However, what I have been able to do is grow an excess of green beans or tomatoes and then process them for later. So I've canned them, I've frozen them, I've made sauces, all things I learned from my grandma. And listen, I am no gardening expert. I decided I was going to just throw some seeds in the dirt and water them once in a while and just see what happened. And what I learned over time were the best veggies that grew in my area, the ones that grew very quickly, the ones that my family liked the best. And I am telling you, there's like nothing better than homegrown green beans straight out of the garden. Like if you don't like green beans, grow green beans. They're almost foolproof and out of the garden, oh, they are unmatched in flavor, texture. They're just like nothing you've ever had. Number 2 from grandma is sewing. So my grandmother did quilting, pieced quilting and hand quilted blankets on every single one of her beds. When she passed, I did end up with many of her quilts here in my house. They are treasured possessions of mine. Not only that, she taught me how to quilt. She also taught me how to make ties, to sew dresses. When I was about 12 or 13, she helped me sew like a sunflower dress. Do you remember how popular those were? Sometimes I miss the 90s, you know what I mean? And she could fix anything. So if nothing else, get yourself a simple sewing kit and run to YouTube, learn how to sew on a button or hem a pair of pants or take up the sleeves if they're a little too long. These are really, really basic, simple sewing skills. That means you don't have to hire out someone else to do them and you can tweak clothes that maybe are passed down to you. You know, you got a hole in the knee of some jeans and you want to patch it. You can do all of those things. It's not too hard. My friends, I have one skill and that is saving money on groceries. I'll also say if you want help with your groceries, more one-on-one with me, I am starting a new group to do more coaching, like one-on-one. So I'll leave that link down in the description box if you're interested in that. But I learned my grocery shopping techniques from my grandmother and they are this: buy food as cheap as humanly possible and store it for later, and reverse meal plan. Reverse meal plan is just looking at what you already have and making a meal plan based out of that instead of flipping through recipe books or being like, ooh, steak and shrimp for dinner tonight. That sounds fantastic. No, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check out my freezer where I got the pork tenderloin on major markdown and I'm gonna say, guess what's for dinner tonight? Pork tenderloin. But the second part to this tip on buying things on sale and stocking up, freezing them, canning them, whatever it is you need to do to preserve them, this is the most important step. My grandmother and my grandfather, both of them, were excellent cooks. So my grandparents hailed from southern Louisiana, and you know that means delicious food, and they did it absolutely on a budget. They knew how to take turtles from a ditch and turn it into the most delicious turtle soup. I wish I was kidding, but that's the way it was in the 60s in Louisiana. What can I say? They knew how to take collard greens, which I don't even really like that much, and beans, which a lot of people have a hard time with, and like the cheapest cut of pork you could find, and they would make it the most flavorful, delicious meal you've ever had. So my friends, on some level, there is huge benefit into learning some basic cooking skills, which my grandparents had in spades, which they passed down to my mom, which passed down to me. So I have a deep love of cooking. A few basic skills will get you a really, really long way in the kitchen, and I'm gonna give you the secret to cooking right now. Salt, fat, acid, and heat. That's the secret. There's also a book with that title. There's also a series, I think it's on Netflix, with that title. You will learn so much about cooking if you can apply those 4 aspects to your food. Let's talk about the home. My grandparents lived in the same house for 50 years. They built it brand new in the 60s and stayed in it until they ended up passing. And what I know about my grandparents is they never bought new couches. They never bought new curtains. They did not buy a new dining room table my entire growing up childhood when I visited that house. When I visited when I was 5, they had the same kitchen table and chairs that they had when they passed in 2019. And that is really, really different than our way of doing furniture and home decorations and stuff nowadays. Like there's a lot of furniture from Amazon, and there's a lot of, oh, I don't like this couch anymore, so I'm gonna flip it out because it's old, even though it's been 2 years. My grandparents weren't like that. They kept things forever. They bought really high quality and they kept them forever. In fact, I think my grandma probably kept her bed for a little bit too long. I think she slept in that mattress for 40 years until there was like a huge human-sized dent.
I've asked him to flip the mattress 1,000 times.
I don't recommend that. So if your bed looks like that and you want to replace it, I can recommend a Helix mattress. They're sponsoring today's video. Helix mattress creates premium mattresses and bedding customized for you and your life. You don't know which mattress to pick. I have a solution. They have an online quiz, takes literally no time at all, and you can tell them what kind of sleeper you are, if you sleep alone, if you sleep with a partner, and they're gonna recommend a mattress to you. It does come shipped to your house, rolled up in a box. You can set it up and sleep on it in as little as 2 hours. There's also a 10-year warranty. They also have payment plans and financing options if you need that. And I know what you're thinking, but Christine, it's a mattress. What if I get it and I don't like it? I was worried about the same, but they have a 100-night sleep trial guarantee. If you don't like it for any reason, they are going to make it right. And just like Goldilocks, they do have a budget level that's gonna be just right for you. They have your budget line, they have your middle of the line, which is the luxe, and they have the top mama jama, the elite mattress. So you can get a nice tight 12 every night. That one is gonna be the mattress for you. Listen, I have Helix mattresses in my entire house. I sleep on the softest one, which is the Sunset Luxe, but check it out. My mom just had knee replacement surgery like 6 months ago, and ever since, she cannot stand her mattress. Like for some reason, it's super uncomfortable. She's been sleeping on the couch for like 4 months, and I'm like, Mom, no, we're not doing this. Let's hook you up with a Helix. So we got her a Helix, went over and set it up for her. She is finally sleeping in her own bed again. If you are in the market to upgrade your mattress, Helix is gonna give you 20% off. Hold on, Christine, did you say 20% off the Helix mattress? No, no, no. Right now they are running their Memorial Day sale, which means you can get 30% off of the Luxe and Elite line of mattresses. 30%, that's the highest discount you'll ever get, and 25% off site-wide. Not 20%, 30%. This pricing only runs through May 30th, so don't miss out. Also includes the 2 free pillows, like always. So don't be like my grandma who kept a mattress for 40 years, be like my mom who upgraded to a Helix. My friend Dawn over at The Minimal Mom is going to adore this tip. This doesn't come from me, this comes from my grandmother, and it's about having a uniform. It is simplifying your clothes, because my grandmother wore basically the same outfit my whole life that I could remember. It was a pair of stretchy pants and like a flowy, baggy top. It was her uniform of sorts. She knew it fit, she knew how to wash it, she knew where to buy it, and she just had like a couple solid colors. I guess mine would be a pair of jeans and an easy t-shirt that I can throw on. This one's fancy because it has stripes. Normally I have a graphic tee, and I don't today, so I leveled up for you guys today in my outfit choice. Dawn also talks about the Project 333, where you pick 33 items of clothing for 3 months of the year. You're paring down your wardrobe, which helps you in a ton of ways. Number one, you're not buying as much, so obviously you're saving money. Number two, less laundry and a cleaner house. When you have less stuff, you have a cleaner house. And less laundry, because usually if you have a ton of options, you'll try something on and take it off and throw it on the floor, and then it sits on the floor for a week, and then it ends up in the dirty laundry because you can't remember if it was clean or not. Oh, is that just me?
It's a problem for me, which means it's a problem for you, because I'm a cop.
I probably need to take more tips from my grandmother in this area and pare down my wardrobe a little bit. And also it helps you be content with what you have. Your mental energy can be focused on other things, whether that's your family or finding adventures or reading great books or testing out new recipes. Let's talk entertainment. Do you remember what your grandparents did for entertainment? Because mine didn't go to the movies. Mine didn't go to theme parks. Mine definitely did not ride roller coasters. I don't know that they really even went out to eat unless it was on a Sunday after church and they went to Popeyes for the chicken and biscuits. My grandma would enjoy that a few times. She always got the 2-piece dark meat, always with a biscuit from Popeyes. If you know, you know. But honestly, my grandparents' hobbies were also their self-reliance things. My grandmother's hobby was gardening and quilting and hunting for deals. My grandpa's hobbies included woodworking, which he made porch swings for everyone in the family. He made Adirondack chairs for everybody, little rocking chairs for the grandkids. He also loved fishing, so he would go fish and then they would eat the fish. Those were their hobbies. They spent their time on hobbies that helped them out and helped them spend time with people, and less on the consumerism that hobbies seem to gravitate towards today, like going to the movies or going to a concert, which I love, by the way. I love a concert, but it's quite different than going fishing for fun. So maybe take a look at your hobbies. Do you window shop for fun? Do you go into Target because you have an hour to kill and you want to enjoy yourself? I bet you walk out of Target with $300 worth of things you didn't know you needed until you walked in there. Now, my grandmother was extremely aware about wasting resources. So she never went in the car to drive unless she had 5 places to go to. She never went out to drive for one errand, not ever. And she did live in a place where she could walk to several of the areas, and she did. Another example of this is the heavy, heavy curtains she had in her house. Now, I don't know if you've been to Southern Louisiana, but it is a swamp. Literally, it's a swamp. It is so humid during the summertime that water will streak down all of the windows. So my grandmother used these heavy, heavy curtains to block all of the windows and the heat. So the air conditioner didn't have to work so hard, so she didn't have to pay so much for it. Let's also add, I learned what a military shower was at my grandparents' house. If you had the water running in that shower for longer than 2 minutes, yeah, my grandpa's banging on the door, turn it off. Do you know what a military shower is? Water on, wet, off. Soap everything, water on, rinse, off, done. Kind of like how the older generation did not switch out furniture like couches and tables and beds as often as we do now. They also didn't switch out cars and homes as much as we do now. Doesn't it feel like everybody moves like every 2 years? My grandparents lived in their house my entire life. They never moved. Now, granted, there are some reasons why you would need to move, like work or got a new job somewhere, or maybe you had a big house for your 10 kids and now you don't need a house for 10 kids, you need a house for 2 people. I totally get that. But how many of us move because I don't like my kitchen, or my yard's too small, or wouldn't it be prettier if I had an updated house instead of my old house? I think those are the motivations for a lot of the reasons for moving, you know, more in my generation than before. Also the cars, they just drove their cars forever and ever. Like, how many grandpas do you know kept their car for 20 years and they only got rid of it because they weren't allowed to drive anymore? They just knew how to be content with what they had. Something I'm trying to focus on more in my life is not valuing my stuff. Like, I have to have stuff as tools to get through my life, but what I truly value are the experiences I have with the people I love, the memories that I make with people. True wealth is not in the money. True wealth is in the relationships. And so that's what I try and focus on, and it's something my grandparents did very, very well. It's a huge lesson for me. I hope you enjoyed reminiscing with me today about the way our grandparents used to live, and hopefully we can take some of those skills and apply them today so we can afford to save as much money as possible. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I'll see you next video. Bye. A few weeks ago, my family did this mountain bike race. It's in the desert, so there's cactus, okay? So it was a timed race and you did as many laps as you could do in the time frame. So it was timed, we had 9 hours to complete as many laps as possible. Each lap is 10 miles and about 1,100 feet of elevation climbing and descending. Did I mention it was in the desert? So that means cactus or cacti. On my second lap, where I'm feeling much more comfortable, I'm quite a bit faster, my descending is much better because I know the trail at this point. I look down and throughout the course of the race, the hundreds of riders that are there, a cactus chunk had been knocked into the center of the trail. And do you know what happens when you look at an obstacle when you're on a bike? You hit it. So I see the cactus and I'm like, oh crap, I hope my tire doesn't catch this cactus. Well, my tire caught the cactus. And I'm thinking, oh no, I hope the spines, is that what they're called? The spines don't stick into my tire and it like gets stuck on my tire, because if I roll over it, whatever. I have tubeless sealant in my tire, so it won't poke a hole in my tire. Well, the cactus stuck to the tire and I can see it rotating with the tire and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope this cactus does not fly off the tire and fly at my face. So the cactus flew off the tire up at my face. Everything that I tried, that I did not want to happen is what happened. It's Murphy's Law, it's in effect. So the cactus is flying at my face and I'm careening down this hill at like 25 miles an hour. How do you stop on a mountain bike? There's people in front of me, there's people behind me, there's cactus flying at my freaking face. So I like kind of turned and I'm like, no. Fortunately, it hit the handlebar and flew off to the side, crisis averted. But it was touch and go there for a while. Me and cactus, we are not friends. I had a bad experience.